Now we'll discuss about a topic, traders, kings and pilgrims. So how to find more about trade and traders? Mainly through archaeological finds, historian records, word of mouth which has been passed on from generation to generations. They traveled via land using horses, camels and other animals, even elephants to some extent, but mainly through horses. Via land, and via sea they traveled through ships, large ships and boats. So this enabled them to travel to faraway places and to do trade with people of different cultures, even though they had little bit difficulties in speaking their languages. However, people understood the basic sign languages and business deals was achieved between them. So in this way, the world in which we are living right now is just the accumulation of the traders who did a lot of business with a lot of people of different cultures worldwide. So now we'll take a look at new kingdoms along the coast. If you look at South India has a long coastline. India itself has a long coastline, especially the southern states, South India, like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka. You will find a term called Muvender in the Sangam Tamil literature. It was the Tamil term given for the three powerful chiefs who became powerful in South India, namely the Cholas, the Cheras and the Pandyas, who became very powerful around 2300 years ago. The basic pattern of their kingdoms were like they had two centers of power. So one power city was usually the capital city inside the mainland, that's why it's also known as inland, and one on the seaport, that's why it's also known as a coastal city. So this was the pattern observed between the Movenders. One more marked difference which archaeologists found was the chiefs or the kings or the rulers, they did not collect regular taxes, which normally kings do in general. Instead they demanded and received gifts from the people. They gave gifts in either in cash or kind. So it was very useful for the rulers as well. And the rulers also went on military expeditions to conquer further lands, to expand their kingdoms. After the Movenders, around 200 years later, the Satavahanas became very powerful in Western India, parts of Maharashtra and Gujarat. So its most important ruler was Gautami Putra Sri Satakarni. The Satavahanas were nicknamed Lords of the Dakshina Patha, which means south leading route, the route which leads towards the south. Now we'll take a look at the story of the Silk Route. Silk is a highly valued fabric, mainly due to its rich and smooth textures. So making silk is a complicated process. The science of making silk is known as sericulture. Silk is extracted from the cocoons of silkworms. The initial larvae stage, their larvae stages, they are known as cocoons. So the silk is extracted from the cocoons of silkworms, spun into thread and then woven into cloth. That's why the silk thread or fabric is very fine and it's very rich in texture and it's very expensive. So the silk making techniques were first invented in China approximately 7,000 years ago. We really appreciate the Chinese for giving us the silk making techniques to the whole world. And the path of the silk traders which they took is known as the Silk Route. The Silk Route mainly goes from China to Europe via northwestern India and Central Asia. It's a very, very important route in terms of history. About 2000 years ago, wearing silk became the fashion among the ruling class and the rich class in Europe. So that's why silk was the ideal fabric for them to flaunt their richness. They were very privileged. So silk became their favorite fabric. So the best known rulers who controlled the Silk Route were the Kushanas, the Kushan Empire, who ruled over Central Asia and northwestern India approximately 2000 years ago. They were very strong rulers. They controlled the Silk Route very efficiently and they got taxes from travelers and from traders who used their land for the Silk Route. They earned lots of profits from traders. Peshawar and Mathura, which are in modern day Pakistan and in modern day India, were two major power centers in the Silk Route. So traders used to come all over the world to Mathura and Peshawar to trade in silk. Kushanas were one of the earliest rulers to issue gold coins. The Kushanas issued gold coins and they used them for trading various goods and commodities. They have their own distinguished place in the history of mankind. Now we'll talk about the spread of Buddhism. We all know Lord Buddha inspired a lot of people with his Buddhist teachings. He taught about the right way of life. If you lead a right life, you will be free of sufferings, and that will lead you towards moksha, or also nirvana in Buddhist terms. So let's first take a few important points, then I'll explain it further. So Kanishka organized Buddhist councils, meetings around 1900 years ago. So a famous poet named Ashwaghosha composed the Buddha Charita. Then Mahayana Buddhism developed, like other forms of Buddhism are Hinayana, Theravada, Tibetan Buddhism, etc. What we can say is, Kanishka was a great ruler. He was very much inspired by Buddhism, by Lord Buddha and his Buddhist teachings. He contributed his part in spreading Buddhism by organizing a lot of Buddhist council meetings, where a lot of learned Buddhist monks, also even travelers, whoever was learned scholar was most welcome, and they discussed in assemblies, and they composed a lot of Buddhist literature. And during this time, Ashwaghosha composed the Buddha Charita. He composed the biography of Lord Buddha. Then Mahayana Buddhism developed during this period, because Mahayana Buddhism focuses on the image of Lord Buddha. So it also believed in bodhisattvas. So there are two important features regarding Mahayana Buddhism. Other forms of Buddhism are Theravada Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, etc. But Mahayana Buddhism developed during this time mainly. Lord Buddha statues were made in large numbers in Mathura and in Takshila, and they were distributed. People used to come, they used to collect Lord Buddha statues, and they used to take with them to offer their worship towards Lord Buddha statues. And also belief in the bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas were believed to be the enlightened persons. They were ordinary human beings who worked hard and they reached enlightenment or nirvana. However, they wanted to help other people, so even after achieving enlightenment, they taught and helped other people. Buddhism became very famous, and Buddhism spread to the Orient or to the Far East, like countries like China, Japan, Korea, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, all those countries. Normally they are known as the Orient or the Far East, and people really accepted Lord Buddha and his Buddhist teachings. We'll take a look at the quest of the pilgrims. Who are pilgrims? Pilgrims are people who undertake journeys to holy places to offer worship. Some famous Chinese Buddhist pilgrims were Xian, who came to India around 1600 years ago. Then Xuan Zang, who came to India around 1400 years ago. And Iching came to India and visited holy places 50 years later than Xuan Zang, that is approximately 1350 years ago. And all of these Chinese pilgrims visited a lot of holy places, a lot of Buddhist places, holy Buddhist places and monasteries, and they learned a lot about Lord Buddha and his teachings in India, and they visited those places. One of the key things to be considered over here is they left their detailed accounts in the form of various books that included various records of their journeys and the dangers which they faced while journeying through them. They also carried the books back to their homelands, mainly China, because they all mainly came from China. So they noted down various books. They translated various books from Sanskrit to Chinese, and then they took it back to them, to their homeland China, so that they could teach about their homeland people, their Chinese people, about India, and mainly about Lord Buddha and his teachings in India, and how they can implement those Buddhist teachings to their country China. Then we'll take a look at Nalanda. Nalanda was a very unique center of Buddhist learning. Nalanda right now exists in modern day Bihar, in that area. So most travelers spend considerable time over there learning about various religious scriptures, mainly Buddhist scriptures, and mainly Lord Buddha and his teachings. And they noted down, and they took their accounts back to wherever they came from, so that they could teach more people regarding Lord Buddha and his teachings. Then we'll take a look at the beginning of Bhakti. Bhakti was a major movement for the revival of the Hindu religion. Mainly Adi Shankaracharya revived Hinduism. In other words, the Vedas, the Puranas were started to being discussed in detail among a lot of Hindu scholars, just the way the Buddhist scholars met in councils and meetings. Few deities like Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Goddess Durga, etc. These deities gained prominence and importance, and people started to worship them in large numbers. And these deities were worshipped through bhakti, mainly musical divine songs. They were musical songs dedicated to the divine. So they were musical divine songs. Bhajans are the musical divine songs. They were known as bhajans. Or you can say, like in this way, the bhakti movement developed. So mainly the devotees worship these deities through bhajans, or also known as the bhakti songs. All were welcome to follow bhakti. The idea of bhakti is also present in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the holy book of the Hindus. It mainly laid stress on image or idol worship. Like the basic concept of the bhakti is, you can choose your favorite god or goddess, and you can keep that image in your mind, and you can focus on that image, and you can meditate on that image or idol, whatever form you want, and the divine will manifest to you in that form which you prefer. So this was the key concept of the bhakti movement, and to help you concentrate and meditate on the divine, bhajans helped you a lot to focus your mind on the divine. So that's why the bhakti movement gained a lot of prominence during this time, along with the spread of Buddhism, and Hinduism gained prominence in India. In this way, Hinduism replaced Buddhism and Jainism and took the center stage in India. Then due to this, a lot of artists made beautiful images of these deities for the devotees. So the devotees were known as bhaktas or the bhagavatas, and grand temples were built for these deities so that people can go over there in large numbers, and they could offer their worship in large numbers. They could also do some meditation in these holy places known as temples. Also, bhakti inspired some of the best art in the form of sculpture, poetry and architecture. So the word Hindu was mainly used by the Arabs. It means people living east of the Indus River. Because the Indus River was called the Sindhu River. So from Sindhu the word Hindu came, and the word Hindu was mainly given by the Arabs to us, so that the Western people know, so these are Hindu means people living east of the Indus River. In the meantime, elsewhere, approximately 2000 years ago, while Hinduism and Buddhism was being developed in these parts, in the eastern part of the world, Jesus Christ preached his teachings, and Christianity emerged in West Asia. His main teaching was that he was the savior of the world, and he mainly preached to love and trust others. And his teachings were included in the Holy Bible, which included the Old Testament and the New Testament. So compilation of the Bible took place, and Jesus Christ's teachings were added to the existing Holy Bible. Because earlier Bible was in the form of the Old Testament, then the New Testament developed, and then they combined the Old Testament and the New Testament to form the Holy Bible, which we even now use. But there are many other variations like the King James Version or the New International Version. So slight variations were done later on by the future kings of Europe. So we discussed about these certain concepts regarding Buddhism, Hinduism and a little bit of Christianity as well. And we mainly discussed about the Bhakti movement. So now we'll take a look at some of the important dates to be remembered in this chapter. Discovery of silk making took place in China approximately about 7,000 years ago. Then the Cholas, Cheras and the Pandyas, they were in their prime time approximately 2,300 years ago. Then growing demand for silk in the Roman Empire was about 2,000 years ago. Then Kanishka, the Kushana ruler, lived around about 1,900 years ago. Then Xian, the famous Chinese pilgrim who visited India, comes to India approximately about 1,600 years ago. Then Xuan Zang comes to India, and at the same time Appar, also known as Tirunavukkarasar, he was a famous Tamil poet. He composes devotional poems like songs or divine hymns in praise of Lord Shiva approximately 1,400 years ago. So these are some of the important dates to be remembered in this chapter. Traders, kings and pilgrims. So you also do some further research. If you want, you can add some extra points to the existing knowledge. And if you have any doubts or suggestions, please let us know in the comment section below. Thank you so much. Have a great day.